The moment I opened my eyes, the tragedy had already reached its end. Lu Ying tortured me until my body was covered in wounds, waiting for the grand scene of remorse, the late, desperate attempt to win back his wife. The matron pretended to be deaf and blind, my own parents kept a cold distance, and I was left isolated with nowhere to turn. Meanwhile, my sister hid in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to steal my place as the heir's wife. A strange calm settled over me. I chased after them to the wine house where Lu Ying and that sister were secretly meeting, covered my face, and sobbed. Please, please marry her into the household as your concubine. My neck was already looped with white silk. Just one kick at the stool, and my heart, already cold as ash, would stop. But the silk suddenly snapped for no reason at all. I fell to the ground and passed out. And in that haze, something awakened inside me. I saw the future, Lu Ying, who would one day love me with a madness bordering on obsession. He would risk his life to save me, kneel in a blizzard for 3 days and nights begging for forgiveness, and eventually kill Shen Qingyan with his own hands, all for me. After circling through heaven and hell, we would mend our broken bond, grow old together, and make others envy our lifelong devotion. A voice echoed in the darkness. Do not seek death. Endure a little longer, and you will live to see the sweetness after the suffering. When I woke, my cheeks were wet with tears, yet my heart felt strangely light, like someone had freed me from invisible chains. Beside me, I heard Ji Yao crying. I was the heir's wife, carried into the Yongning Marquis household in a grand 8-bearer sedan, carrying Lu Ying's precious firstborn. Yet after the miscarriage, the only person beside me was a dowry maid grieving on my behalf. The matron played deaf, my husband was blind in both eyes and heart, and my own parents remained distant. Truly, I had no one left. When I opened my eyes, Ji Yao hurried to wipe her tears and comfort me. Miss, don't worry. The physician said your foundation is good. With proper rest, you will still have children in the future. I shook my head. There won't be another. All because Shen Qingyan accused me of breaking a porcelain doll, their old token of affection. Lu Ying, blinded by her tears, pushed me in a burst of anger. He never once listened to my explanation. He never once remembered I was pregnant. I collapsed to the floor, clutching my stomach as pain tore through me. Blood soaked my clothes, deeper and darker with each passing breath. Yet all I saw was Lu Ying carrying Shen Qingyan away, she who had only cut her fingertip. He didn't look back. Not once. The cold line of his back. The triumphant smile on Shen Qingyan's lips. They silenced every plea I never managed to speak. From that moment, every hope I ever placed in Lu Ying died along with the child who never saw the world. A man like him was not fit to be a father. And he was even less deserving of my life. Right then, another dowry maid, Yi-song, rushed in breathlessly. Miss. Something's wrong. The heir never returned last night. His attendant just came, he said the heir is in trouble and you must come at once. A cold laugh rose in my chest, but on the surface I let panic wash over my face. I pressed a trembling hand to my forehead and whispered weakly. What should I do, what should I do? No, we must rush to tell mother at once and find a way to save him. Yi-song hurriedly said. But the attendant warned us, he said the heir only permits you to go there alone, quietly. I snapped coldly. His safety comes first. Who still cares about propriety at a time like this? Come help me at once. Yi-song had nothing to say after that. She and Ji Yao each took one arm and supported me all the way to the matron's courtyard. The old marquis had died early. The matron had always been frail and never involved herself in the household. But when she saw my weakened body, fresh from miscarriage, dragged in through the door, and heard that Lu Ying was in trouble, her soul nearly left her. With trembling hands, she gathered a group of servants and rushed out in a panic. The place the attendant mentioned was a winehouse. I supported the matron at the front. Behind us was a large, aggressive crowd. Naturally it drew attention, Customers peeked curiously as we passed. Lu Ying's attendant stood guard outside a sky character room. When he saw the entire procession charging his way, the blood drained from his face. The matron cried anxiously. "Where is Ying? Did he run into trouble?" The attendant stammered, drenched in cold sweat, blocking the door with all his might. I barked. "Move aside at once. If you delay and harm the heir, you'd best worry about your own life." The moment the matron heard this, she ordered the servants to drag him away. The door was kicked open, and the matron froze. The room was an absolute mess. Wine jars and clothing littered the floor, and among them, women's garments. Lu Ying stirred at the commotion. He sat up with a groggy frown, but beneath the quilt, a woman with disheveled hair was clearly hiding. I picked up a fallen handkerchief and gasped. "That woman. Xin Qingyan. How could you? That is your sister's husband." Gasps erupted from outside the room. Xin Qingyan had wanted to sneak away once she sensed danger, but I had already exposed her. Her face twisted with hatred, yet she forced herself to look pitiful as she turned to Lu Ying, whose expression was also dark, and cried. "Ying, it was all my fault last night. I should have pushed you away. I wronged my sister." Lu Ying had been drugged and drunk beyond reason the previous night. His mind was still a muddled blur. But upon hearing Xin Qingyan's tearful voice, seeing her cry again, his heart softened instantly. "No, Qingyan, it's my fault. You're a good girl. I'm the one who harmed you." My stomach churned with disgust. I cut off their nauseating exchange and wailed. "Lu Ying, how could you? Yesterday I lost our child. Not only did you ignore me completely, but you even sneaked around with my sister. Do you still call yourself human?" Then I squeezed my eyes shut and pretended to faint. Ji Yao screamed in panic and dashed out to fetch a physician. I knew it wouldn't take long before Lu Ying and Xin Qingyan's scandal spread through the entire capital. In my past life, I had foolishly obeyed and gone alone, afraid Lu Ying would lose his temper, only to witness this exact scene. Xin Qingyan would pretend in front of him, claiming she wanted no title, that she would rather cut her hair and become a nun than ruin the bond between us sisters. Compared to her aggrieved humility, my rightful questions became unreasonable jealousy. Lu Ying called me sharp-tongued and vicious, said I could never compare to Xin Qingyan's gentle understanding. But the moment he turned away, Xin Qingyan showed her true face. Smirking triumphantly, she whispered to me. "Now Lu Ying and I have shared a night together. He won't abandon me. Wait until he divorces you, then I will marry into the marquis household openly. You can't win against me, Xin Ying." Yet now, their shameless affair had blown up so loudly even the tiles on the rooftops had heard it. There would be no graceful waiting for her. At best, she would crawl into the household as a concubine. Who knew what Xin Qingyan had told Lu Ying, because when he returned, he stormed into my room and demanded. "You instigated Mother to make a scene and bring everyone there on purpose, didn't you? This was your scheme all along. To be caught red-handed and still speak with such righteous indignation. In the past, I must have been utterly blind. Just thinking of the child who died unjustly inside me made my whole body tremble with fury." I tugged down the high collar at my neck, revealing the bruises hidden beneath, and said icily. "The day I lost the child, I was so distraught I tried to hang myself. Yet even then, when I learned you were in danger, I dragged my sick body to find you, only to witness you and Xin Qingyan together. And now you dare accuse me of scheming." Lu Ying's face flushed purple with humiliation. He fled in disgrace. The scandal shook the entire city. My father and mother had no choice but to come knocking that very night. Lu Ying bowed his head, ashamed, and said solemnly to them. "It was my fault for drinking and losing control. Qingyan is innocent. She deserved a better choice. Becoming my concubine is already a grievance to her. I will treat her well from now on and never let her suffer again." As he said this, he cast a meaningful glance at me, a silent warning. I ignored him completely and turned to my father and mother. Two sisters serving one husband, said pleasantly. It sounds like harmony, said truthfully. It's disgraceful. Will father and mother still try to hide it? Back then, the imperial decree had granted a marriage alliance between the Shin family and the Yongning Marquis household. So no matter how much my parents doted on Shin Qingyan, they never dared commit the crime of deceiving the throne by sending in a fake daughter in my place. Because of this, they felt even more guilt toward Shin Qingyan. They spoke vaguely to outsiders, never clarifying her false identity, allowing her to continue presenting herself as the Shin family's second young lady. Lu Ying had never wanted to marry me. All his resentment fell squarely on my shoulders. With Shin Qingyan fanning the flames, he grew convinced I had stolen my sister's marriage for the sake of glory and status. Shin Qingyan had long perfected the art of disguise, hiding a snake's heart beneath a pitiful face. But I would peel away every single mask she wore. Father, in the end, valued the family's reputation more than anything. And after the scandal she caused this time, even he knew what needed to be done. He hesitated a moment, then finally said to the stunned Lu Ying. My son-in-law, I must confess. Qingyan is not the blood of our Shin family. She was switched at birth with Ying. She is the daughter of a farming household. The words struck Lu Ying like a bolt of lightning. I lowered my head, wiped my tears, and said miserably. When I saw you and my sister deeply in love, I didn't want to be the heartless one who separated lovers. I even begged father and mother to give the marriage to her. Only then did they tell me the truth. We could not disobey imperial will, but for my sister's sake, I originally intended to keep this secret forever. Who could have known you would? Lu Ying's lips trembled. After a long moment, he asked. Did Qingyan know? Father nodded. Of course. Thankfully, Qingyan was understanding. She willingly relinquished the engagement and bore no resentment toward Ying. Father had intended to speak in Shin Qingyan's favor. But Lu Ying's expression only darkened further, because Shin Qingyan had never said anything like that to him. In her telling, I was the greedy, scheming one who used my parents' guilt to snatch away her engagement, forcing her to accept injustice and humiliation. Realizing he had been deceived, Lu Ying no longer mentioned fulfilling his promise to welcome her into the household with the rights of a main wife. The truth of Shin Qingyan's false identity spread quickly. And the rumor that I, upon returning home, had stolen my sister's marriage collapsed instantly. In its place rose louder talk of Shin Qingyan's calculating nature. How she had occupied someone else's identity for years, and now even wanted to steal another woman's husband. Combined with the fact she had been caught in broad daylight in an illicit meeting, her reputation crumbled overnight. The old friends who once laughed with her now avoided her like venomous snakes, afraid her disgrace would stain them. No one dared attend her wedding feast. Neither the Shin family nor the Marquis household wanted the embarrassment publicized. So there were no grand decorations, no 8-carrier sedan, not even a lively banquet. Shin Qingyan fell from the clouds straight into the mud, crying in humiliation on her own wedding day. What drew even more gossip was this. On the wedding night, Lu Ying never went to her courtyard. He went straight to the study. It was said she wept even harder than before. Sure enough, when she came to serve me tea the next morning, Shin Qingyan's eyes were swollen red, filled with accusation as she stared at Lu Ying. Just as my fingers touched the teacup, she suddenly trembled. The hot tea spilled over the back of her own hand. Tears burst forth immediately. She stammered pitifully. Sister, I know you blame me for taking your place all those years, but Ying and I loved each other since we were young. We were promised to one another. How could I control my heart while watching him marry you? They had indeed grown up together. Though furious with her for deceiving him, at that moment Lu Ying remembered their childhood affections. And seeing Shin Qingyan crying like pear blossoms in rain, his heart softened again. He glared at me. How can you be so cruel? That switch at birth was not Qingyan's fault. Must you cling to every grievance? Do you refuse to let go even when you are in the right? In the past, I would have argued myself hoarse. But there was no evidence for what happened, words alone could not win. And Lu Ying's heart had always been tilted. In the end, it was always me who became the unreasonable, jealous wife, only highlighting Shen Qingyan's gentleness. She committed every cruelty yet always shifted blame by acting weak. And Lu Ying fell for it every single time. My eyes reddened. I spoke softly. You misunderstand. I've been frail since the miscarriage. My hands trembled, I couldn't hold the teacup properly. I never thought you would see it that way. Ji Yao stepped forward and added. Ever since the miscarriage, Madam suffers nightmares every night. She hasn't rested well. She's grown thinner by the day. Seeing me, always proud, now crying quietly, both Lu Ying and Shen Qingyan were stunned. Provoked by Shen Qingyan, Lu Ying had always misunderstood me. But hearing about the miscarriage again, guilt surged up. He hurriedly released Shen Qingyan and stepped toward me to comfort me. I suppressed the wave of nausea and leaned weakly into him. And as I met Shen Qingyan's venomous glare, I smiled, smug, triumphant, exactly the way she had smiled at me the day I lost my child. If I had not awakened, I truly would never have seen it. Lu Ying actually did harbor feelings for me. But the more he realized his own emotions, the more guilty he felt toward Shen Qingyan. And because of that guilt, he deliberately tormented me, using me as an outlet for the grievances he felt on her behalf. Yet now, faced with my apparent frailty, and fed by Shen Qingyan's carefully woven lies, Lu Ying had begun loosening the bias he once held for her. I used nightmares as an excuse and kept him in my room for several nights in a row. Since Shen Qingyan had entered the household, she had never once been summoned to his bed. Naturally, she could not sit still. She personally cooked a bowl of soup and sent it to his study, her hands covered in tiny wounds, just enough to stir pity in Lu Ying. So when his attendant came to inform me that Lu Ying would stay with Shen Qingyan that night, I didn't show the slightest displeasure. But as soon as night fell, Ji Yao rushed off to request an audience with Lu Ying, saying I was trapped in a nightmare and couldn't wake. She forcefully dragged people away. After this happened several times, Shen Qingyan could no longer endure it. Just like in my previous life, she played the victim endlessly, fainting at the slightest provocation during the day, screaming about nightmares at night. Before long, rumors spread through the Marquis household that the concubine had been cursed. Those whispers soon reached the matron. Years ago, during a struggle for the throne, the Empress Dowager died from a voodoo curse. The matron had been inside the palace at the time and witnessed it with her own eyes. She became so terrified she fell ill for months. Since then, superstition had lodged itself deep in her bones. Now, hearing even a hint of something similar, she panicked. She personally took command and ordered the entire household to be searched. Shen Qingyan was clever. She knew exactly how to press on the matron's old wound and strike where it hurt. She deliberately mentioned that in the village I grew up in, there was a spirit medium living right next to my home. Though the matron scolded her, she clearly took the words to heart. After all, in this entire household, the person who least wanted Shen Qingyan to live well was me. When the search throughout the estate yielded nothing, the matron reluctantly led people to my courtyard. At that very moment, my dowry maid Yi Song suddenly rushed forward and fell to her knees before the matron. Matron, this servant wishes to report that the heir's wife has been using voodoo to curse the concubine. In my previous life, I had no idea Yi Song had been bought long ago by Shen Qingyan. So when she abruptly stepped out to accuse me, I was caught completely off guard. Then they pulled out a wooden box from beneath my bed, a box stuffed with a straw doll bearing Shen Qingyan's birth date, pierced all over with silver needles. With both evidence and testimony, my protests meant nothing. Lu Ying, furious beyond reason, kicked me so hard I fell and rolled across the floor. After that, I was locked in the ancestral hall and forced to kneel alone. No one was allowed to bring me food or water. Left there to rot, I don't know how long I drifted in and out of consciousness. When I finally woke, the news awaiting me was that Shen Qingyan was pregnant. Luing despised my malicious heart, believed I would stop at nothing, and drowned in guilt toward Shen Qingyan. He was determined to compensate her and the child she carried. Because the emperor had always forbidden all forms of voodoo, after the empress dowager's death, Luing used that decree to threaten me into lowering myself from wife to concubine. And now, everything unfolded exactly as it did in my past life. When they dragged out the locked wooden box from beneath my bed, my expression shifted. I hurried forward to snatch it back. Right then, Luing returned in a rush. Shen Qingyan immediately spoke up. Sister, for you to hide it so secretly, could there really be something inside related to voodoo? Suspicion darkened Lu Ying's face. He ordered Ji Yao to bring the key and open the box. Under Shen Qingyan's tense, eager gaze, the wooden lid flipped open. Inside, there was nothing related to sorcery. Only a simple, old handkerchief. Shen Qingyan went stiff. Then, without changing expression, she shot Yisong a sharp, warning glare. Her face shifted rapidly. She must have thought I had found out Yisong's plan and switched the contents beforehand. Luing frowned. This looks like something belonging to a man. Shen Qingyan leaned closer, then cried dramatically. Sister, how could you hide a man's personal item? Are you keeping a secret lover outside? Lu Ying's face darkened even more. He picked up the old handkerchief, preparing to interrogate me. But suddenly he froze, shock overtaking him. This is mine. In the bottom corner, a faint black embroidery marked it as property of the Yongning Marquis household. The fabric was worn, he simply hadn't recognized it at first glance. I let my expression soften with distant memory. Perhaps you've forgotten, my lord. 8 years ago, you saved a village girl in Qingshan town from a group of thugs and even escorted her home. Luing choked. Don't tell me. I looked at him with quiet, unwavering sincerity. That girl was me. If not for you that day, I might not have survived. I remembered that kindness for years. But when we met again in the capital, you did not recognize me. You even held grudges against me, so I never dared to acknowledge our past. Because of that kindness, no matter how harshly you treated me before, I never hated you. I always hoped you would eventually turn back. My voice softened, yet held an icy edge beneath. But I am someone who has already died once. Lu Ying's expression wavered. He opened his mouth to speak. But a servant rushed in, interrupting him. Marquis, we found this in Yisong's room. What was presented was the voodoo doll Shen Qingyan had secretly handed to Yisong. Yisong collapsed to the floor and shook her head wildly. No, it wasn't me. How could that thing be in my room? Shen Qingyan's eyelid twitched. A bad premonition flashed through her. She quickly cut in first. This wicked thing, it even has my birth date written on it. Sister, I know you hate the bond between me and Ing, but how could you be so cruel? I frowned. What are you saying? That object was found in Yisong's room. What does it have to do with me? Shen Qingyan hesitated, glanced at Luing, then said. But Yisong is your dowry maid. If she did such a thing, wouldn't it be because you instructed her? Otherwise, how would a maid dare something this outrageous? I laughed coldly. Have you forgotten? Before the search even began, this girl rushed to accuse me in front of Mother. If she were truly my person trying to stand for justice, why didn't she hand the item over immediately? Why wait until it was found and she had no way out? Ji Yao added sharply. Track Phi must have forgotten, back at the Shin household, Yisong originally served in your courtyard. She dirted your shoes once while cleaning and you struck her until her face swelled, then forced her to kneel on the frozen pond. Madam pitied her and requested to transfer her to serve our miss. I sighed gently. So that's it. The girl held a grudge against you and committed this act in resentment. When the situation turned against her, she tried to pin it on me out of desperation. Yi-song, things are as they are. Will you confess? Luing also spoke coldly. Yi-song, do you know what crime it is to use witchcraft to curse the Trakfi? Yi-song snapped back to her senses and threw a desperate look toward Shin Qingyan. Shin Qingyan shouted. How dare you? Over a petty grudge you committed such treasonous wickedness. Good thing I discovered it early, or you would have caused a disaster. Then she turned to Luing and said with righteous gentleness. Marquis, in the end this happened because I punished her too harshly in the past. If this spreads, it won't reflect well on the household. She's still young and foolish, why not spare her, banish her, and be done with it? Before Luing could speak, I said coldly. She first used witchcraft, then turned around and framed me. This is not something youth and ignorance can excuse. If we let this slide today, won't all the servants think they can do the same? My words struck exactly where the matron stood. She shot Shin Qingyan a frosty glare and ordered. Guards! Tie this treasonous girl up and send her to the magistrate immediately. Make sure he punishes her severely as a warning to the household. Yi-song went pale as death. She threw herself at Shin Qingyan's feet, crying desperately. Second miss. Save me. Everything I did under your orders. You can't abandon me now. Seeing Shin Qingyan's panicked expression, I couldn't help but curve my lips. Ever since awakening, I had known Yi-song was her planted spy. But I never exposed her, because I was waiting for this exact moment. Yi-song had been bribed by Shin Qingyan. Yes, money can buy anything. But one must live long enough to use the money. Facing death, Yi-song broke completely. She spilled everything. It was second miss who wanted to frame the eldest miss. She told me to sneak the voodoo doll into her room first. Then said all I had to do was stand out and accuse her, throw dirt on her name, and it would be over. Second miss even returned my deed of sale and promised to find a reason to send me away with silver. Shin Qingyan kicked her hard, face flushed red. Nonsense. You wicked girl, your witchcraft didn't work so now you want to drag me down. You deserve death. Realizing Shin Qingyan intended to make her the scapegoat, Yi-song's eyes reddened with panic. She turned and kowtowed frantically toward Luing. The 100-tael banknote is still under my bed. I'm an orphan. If she hadn't bribed me, I would never have seen such silver in my life. If you don't believe me, Marquis, send someone to search. Lu Ying's face darkened. With a wave of his hand, servants went to search. And quickly brought back the 100-tael banknote from Yi-song's room. Shin Qingyan's eyes filled with tears as she pointed at me. So that's it. Sister, this was your scheme all along. You would sacrifice a loyal maid just to fling dirt at me. Driven to the edge, she still clung desperately to one final thread. That Yi-song was my dowry maid. Hoping to pull me into the abyss with her. Luing actually turned to look at me with suspicion. Of course he did. If there must be a mastermind behind this grand spectacle. Between me and the always pitiful, always clever Shin Qingyan. He would rather believe I was the villain. I shook my head. My expression was full of aching disappointment. Yi-song may be my dowry maid, but her deed of sale remained in the Shin household. Send someone to ask who retrieved it. And the truth will be clear. Sister, do you still intend to deny it? Yi-song was no fool. In the past, taking Shin Qingyan's money only meant passing along trivial bits of information. But for her to falsely accuse me of sorcery, standing up to publicly testify against me, that price could not be paid with silver alone. Shin Qingyan had taken Yi-song's contract of sale as collateral when bribing her, thinking it would secure her loyalty. Unexpectedly, it became the very evidence sealing her guilt. You reap what you sow, a fitting retribution. With Shin Qingyan struck speechless, Lu Ying's eyes filled with fear and disgust. Once, when she slandered me for stealing her betrothal, she could still twist her words, claiming it was true love, muddling Luing into foolish sympathy. But this time, after staging such a grand performance, her scheming heart and cruel nature stood exposed in broad daylight. Suddenly Shen Qingyan spun around and slapped her maid Hong Mian hard across the face. Blood seeped from the maid's lip as Shen Qingyan snarled. "You wretched girl! How dare you do something so outrageous and make me wrongly accuse my sister? All of this was your doing." Before Hong Mian could recover from the shock, Shen Qingyan dropped to her knees before me with a loud thud, sobbing theatrically. "It was my fault for not keeping my servants in line. Hong Mian has followed me since she was young, she's honest and loyal. She must have acted out of anger on my behalf and made this terrible mistake. I wronged you, sister." Yi Song's lips trembled, but no words came. Whether it was the money for information or the contract exchange, every step of the scheme had been done through Hong Mian alone. Shen Qingyan kowtowed fiercely, clutching the hem of my robe as she said. "Hong Mian's parents work in the household. They're honest people who have served faithfully for years. She may have acted foolishly, but for the sake of her family, please, don't drag them down with her." Her words sounded like she was pleading for the maid. In truth, she was threatening her. "Take the blame, or watch your entire family suffer." Hong Mian had grown up under Shen Qingyan's shadow. She knew all too well how ruthless her mistress truly was. She immediately knelt and wept. "Yes, it was all my fault. I couldn't bear to see my lady wronged and wished to lessen the mistress's prestige. I acted rashly. I begged the Marquis to punish me. Such petty tricks fooled neither me nor Luing. Everything depended on whether he still wanted to shield Shen Qingyan." Luing asked coldly. "Is what she said true?" Shen Qingyan stroked her belly and replied gently. "Of course, Ing. We grew up together, you know me better than anyone. For the sake of the child, I would never do something so wicked." With the unborn child as her shield, she survived this calamity. But Lu Ying's trust in her had shattered. He confined her to her courtyard, and he himself refused to step near it ever again. Instead, the script shifted ahead of time. Luing now looked at me with the softness of spring rain soaking into earth, desperate to make up for everything he had done. One day he took me out to admire plum blossoms in the snow. The next, he insisted on painting a scroll for me. The day after, he somehow found trinkets and toys to coax a smile from me. Though Shen Qingyan could not leave her courtyard, servants could enter freely. Everything I wanted her to know naturally reached her ears. Now that she had lost Lu Ying's affection, was confined, pregnant, and prone to overthinking, her panic grew like wildfire. So it was no surprise when I discovered someone had tampered with my medicine. That night, my stomach cramped relentlessly. Lu Ying rushed to the palace to summon an imperial physician. The physician examined me repeatedly, then frowned. "My apologies, I cannot determine what poison the lady has been afflicted with." The local physician inspected the dregs of the decoction. "There's nothing visibly wrong. Only that the cinnamon twig is slightly excessive. Perhaps the apothecary made a careless mistake. But even so, cinnamon is warm in nature, it shouldn't cause this level of pain." While Ji Yao wiped the sweat from my brow, she accidentally dropped my sachet. Its loosened stitching split open, scattering the fragrant powder across the floor. Ji Yao hurried to pick it up, stammering. "I'm so clumsy, this is your favorite sachet." The physician sniffed it, then gasped. "There's oleander pollen in here." So that's it, cinnamon combined with oleander creates severe abdominal pain. If not found in time, the lady would have bled to death. Lu Ying's face darkened like a storm gathering over the horizon. "Where did this sachet come from?" he barked. Ji Yao faltered. How could this be?" "This sachet, the matron gave it to help stabilize your pregnancy," Ji Yao stammered. "It was brought over personally by the concubine." I let tears brim in my eyes. No wonder. I was already 5 months pregnant, yet the child slipped away so easily. So I had been poisoned from the very beginning. I kept this sachet close to my body every single day. It couldn't have been tampered with later. But why would mother treat me this way? In the past, Luing would never have suspected Xinqingyan. But after the incident with the sorcery accusation, he finally realized how little he knew of her. He fell silent for a long moment, then picked up the sachet and said firmly, "Xinqing, don't worry. I will get to the bottom of this. I will give you a proper answer." I later heard that he personally went to see Xinqingyan, giving her that same sachet under my name as a charm for her pregnancy, and even told her to always keep it on her. Xinqingyan accepted it calmly, but the moment he turned away, she secretly tore it open and replaced the contents. Clearly, she feared suffering the same fate she inflicted on me. When Luing recounted this to me, I leaned into his chest and cried as though my heart were being ripped apart. "Husband, if not for Xinqingyan's schemes, even with your push, a 5-month child wouldn't just vanish. She killed my child, so she should repay me with the one in her belly." Luing always hated bringing up that matter. But now, with Xinqingyan as the villain, he could finally release his guilt and shift the blame away from himself. He wasted no time. "All right. I promise you. Once she gives birth, the child will be sent to the estate. You will raise it. It will be recorded under your name in the family registry. This is the debt she must repay." Xinqingyan's debt was easy to settle. But what about his? The 3rd day of the 3rd month, the Qiqiao festival. Mother invited both me and Xinqingyan to the temple to offer incense for the unborn child. Luing, uneasy, insisted on accompanying us. Halfway there, the Xin family's carriage suddenly broke down. Just as Luing stepped forward to check, a group of mountain bandits burst out and kidnapped both me and Xinqingyan. Even though Luing soon mounted his horse and gave chase, the bandits were familiar with the mountain paths and easily left him far behind. The moment we stopped, Xinqingyan screamed at them. "Hurry! While he's not here yet, kill her. I'll pay you double." But the bandits only grinned. "No need to rush, lady. If you can pay double, the heir can surely pay more. We might as well earn extra ransom. Why bother with killing? Everyone profits." Xinqingyan knew she had completely lost Lu Ying's affection. She planned to send a message to her mother to stage an elegant escape, a silkworm shedding its shell scheme. These bandits had originally been hired by her mother to fake her kidnapping. But Xinqingyan, wanting me dead, agreed to let them raise the price, inadvertently feeding their greed. These were bottom feeders roaming the capital, greedy, reckless, living from one coin to the next. Since they were hired, they knew as long as no actual murder took place, someone would clean up their mess. After what happened to Yi Song and Hong Mian, Xinqingyan still naively believed that a few coins could bribe servants to deliver messages for her. She didn't know that every piece of correspondence passed through my hands. And I had already investigated every one of these bandits down to their fingernails. In my past life, after the sorcery accusation, Luing used that excuse to demote me from wife to concubine. Despairing, I asked for a divorce, only to be thrown out by my own family. I wandered alone, lost and helpless. Luing, seeing my pitiful state, secretly helped me, but Xinqingyan discovered it. She realized Luing never truly let go of me. Unable to accept defeat, she hired the same group to stage another scene, forcing Luing to choose between us. In the end, he chose Xinqingyan. I, terrified of humiliation at the hands of the bandits, leapt off the cliff and miraculously survived. So this time, when Luing finally arrived, too late, I immediately shouted, "Husband, don't come closer. These men were hired by Xinqingyan, they won't spare us." The bandits hadn't expected me to expose everything out loud. They lunged forward to shut me up. I kept backing away until my heels touched the very edge of the cliff. With tears glistening in my eyes, I cried to Luing, "Husband, go. Don't worry about me. These men are from Six Paths Alley in the west of the city. When you return, you must avenge me. Before their expressions could twist any further, I threw myself off the cliff without hesitation. On the cliff, they all believed I had died. The bandits never intended murder, but now they had made mortal enemies out of us. I had exposed their identities. If they let Luing escape, neither they nor their families would survive. There was only one path left: kill all witnesses. When I used the last of my strength to swim ashore and lay basking in the sun, half asleep, I suddenly heard a splash, something heavy falling from above. I pushed myself upright. Floating toward me, battered and bloodied, was Luing. When I jumped, I had already chosen the exact spot, using the branches to break my fall before dropping into the deepest part of the lake. But Luing, he had taken a blade straight to the heart. He collapsed where he stood and fell onto the shallows not far away. When I reached him, blood frothed from his lips and nose. He inhaled more than he exhaled, death already reaching for him. With the last of his strength, he raised a trembling hand toward me, wanting, perhaps, to touch my face one final time. But I found his hand filthy. I stepped aside. At that moment, the familiar voice echoed again, the same one that once urged me not to take my own life. It spoke urgently. Luing is dying. But I can bring him back. All you need is to form a heart-bound pact with him, your lifespans merged, your fates entwined. Do you agree? Facing Lu Ying's pleading eyes, I slowly shook my head. I do not. The voice shrilled. How can you refuse? He is Luing, your destined man. Did you not see it already? In the future, he will love you wholly, endlessly, never leaving, never forsaking. You will grow old together and become the happiest woman under heaven. How can you not save him? Those words were all too familiar. In the former timeline, after I leapt from the cliff, Luing began doubting Shen Qingyan. He uncovered her true face, torturing himself with regret for what he had done to me. He broke off the engagement, then hounded me every day, begging to mend our bond. He knelt in a snowstorm until he fainted. He destroyed Shen Qingyan to appease me. When she tried to drag me down with her, he threw himself in the way to save me. Even the Empress intervened, summoning me to persuade me to return. People congratulated me for surviving hardship, telling me to be grateful for the blessing of reconciling. They said that although Luing had been cruel before, he had repented, and even saved my life, so refusing him would make me the ungrateful one. But not every apology is worthy of a second chance. A prodigal turning back is indeed precious, but my heart is worth gold as well. I am not a weed that bends in the wind and grows again after being trampled. Seeing I remained unmoved, and Lu Ying's gaze was already fading, his life nearly gone, the voice shattered. It screamed. Do you know this is your last chance? Last time you finished the entire storyline but still refused to forgive him, forcing me to rewind time. This time I even revealed the plot to you so you could change everything. Why won't you save him? Only then did I understand, what I experienced wasn't prophecy. It was memory. Everything I had lived through before. I asked quietly. No matter the timeline, Luing truly hurt me. Why must I save the one who wounded me? The moment I finished speaking, Lu Ying's eyes went still. He died with unwillingness carved into his face. And the voice vanished completely. The bandits, after killing both Shen Qingyan and Luing, fled into the wilderness. Mother, upon returning, fell gravely ill, confined to bed, never recovering. The matron could not bear the blow. In her distress, she suffered a stroke and lost the ability to walk or speak. Within a year, she withered away. My father pleaded before the emperor. The emperor issued a decree naming me protector of the nation, and allowed me to adopt a son from the Lu family to inherit the Yongning Marquisate. Soon, the once deserted gates of the Marquis Manor bustled again, Lu clan members rushing forward with sons in tow. I knew their intentions well. The child might be recorded under my name, but when grown, he would side with his birth parents. So I lifted my hand and picked 3 boys. All 3 would be registered under me. Whoever inherited the title would be my decision. If one did not suit me, I could simply choose another. A marquisate could afford to raise a few more children. From then on, I lived freely, sometimes a mother, sometimes a carefree shopkeeper, spending my days drinking tea, traveling, and eating good food. Raised casually like that, none of the boys turned out spoiled. On the contrary, every one of them became accomplished, so accomplished, in fact, that not a single one cared much for the marquis title. A pity that even when I reached the age of 88, the voice never returned. If it had, I would have forced it to open its dog eyes and see for itself. This was true happiness. The end.